A question came up yesterday about marker size, specifically talking about section elevation, interior elevation, just generally all of the marker sizes. The marker size can be edited right here, so I can make it a little bit bigger relative to the text, a little bit smaller relative to the text. You can customize that the way that you want. I'm just working with the out-of-the-box template right here, so looking at the standard default place section and elevation markers. Typical 1/4 inch drawing scale right here. But one thing you'll notice, if I were to decrease the scale, say do a 1/16 inch plan, these markers appear to get bigger. Now the thing about markers and text in ArchiCAD is that they're a constant size. So if I look at the size of this, that 64 point measures out, if I were to measure this here, at about 9.5 feet. If I go back to a 1/4 inch scale and scale that out here, measure that, it's 2.5 feet. So relative to, or let me double check that here now that it refreshed, yeah, about 2.5 feet. So depending on the scale, these drawings are going to be, or these markers are going to be the same size relative to the scale of the drawing. They don't scale up and down with the drawing. And there's nothing in the marker settings that says scale with the drawing. There are ways around this, but generally speaking, if your drawing is smaller, it's going to appear that the markers are bigger. If your drawing is bigger, then you can see the markers almost disappear at this scale. And that's intentional, so that these markers are always the same size on the layout, regardless of what the scale of the drawing is. Now the way around that, if we look on the layout here, so here's my plan, and I think the instance where we're looking at possibly wanting to see these at a different scale would be if you had like a marker reference plan on this sheet. So if I were to place that floor plan on here, and let that rebuild here for a second, I can technically come in here to the view map and come into my floor plan, I guess. And let's go to floor plan, first floor plan, and I'm going to save this under my sections folder, save as, and let's say that this is that 1/16 inch custom. Put it as a marker reference plan. You can see those markers get huge relative to the plan. So now coming back to my section sheet, I can take that marker reference plan and drop it on here, and then I get that 1/16 inch thumbnail showing where the elevation and section markers are cut through. You do have to be really careful placing those markers so that they don't overlap and look all sloppy like that. If you did want to force them to scale down, which there's a word of caution that I'll go through in here in a second, but I can go to the drawing settings of that floor plan, set to 1/4 inch, and I can change that to 1/16 inch. So the original scale is 1/4, but the drawing scale is being scaled down to 1/16. And you can see there the markers scale with the plan. The word of caution that I have about that is that I've basically taken the font size right here, which was I believe 7-point font, and cut it down to 1/4 of what it was. So that's so 7, 3.5 would be about 1 3/4, 1.75 point font, which is not legible font on a standard print sheet, let alone on like a half-scale print. So that's the one thing, the one word of caution about scaling text or markers or zone names or any kind of font or marker relative element. Scaling it on the layout does have its appeal, but it also has that ineligible component to it. So if you want your fonts to be legible, scale it at the view and just place the markers accordingly. I hope this was helpful, and I'll touch back again soon.